Israel and activists have accused the United Nations of being slow to respond to reports of women being raped by Hamas militants. Following reports that Hamas committed extensive sexual violence against women during its attack on Israel on October 7, Israel charged Monday that the UN was too sluggish to react. According to Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Gilad Erdan, Hamas deliberately used sexual assault and rape as weapons of war during its attack on Israel. This was planned ahead of time. It was all prearranged. Erdan made the statement while speaking at a United Nations panel that Israel had convened to present evidence of the alleged crimes. Unfortunately, the very international organizations that claim to support women around the world have demonstrated that they are willing to tolerate indifference when it concerns Israelis, Erdan stated. Israeli authorities claim to have amassed a large body of testimony detailing rape, sex crimes, mutilation, and torture from eyewitnesses and first responders who were present during or immediately following the horrific events. According to Israeli authorities, Hamas militants allegedly captured photos of their female victims in various states. According to a witness who was present at the Nova rave, everything was an apocalypse of corpses, girls without any clothes on, without tops, without underwear, people cut in half, butchered, some were beheaded, stated Yael Reichert, a chief superintendent with the Israeli National Police, during the UN meeting. In connection with the assault on October 7, Reichert is cooperating with the Israeli government's investigation into alleged sex crimes. One Israeli soldier who was helping to prepare the bodies of fallen female soldiers for burial, Sherry Mendez, claimed that a systematic genital mutilation of a group of victims had occurred. Terrorists from Hamas did not commit sexual crimes against women, according to the group. Another panelist was Sheryl Sandberg, who had previously served as COO of Meta Platforms, Facebook's parent company. She argued that the stories told by the bodies of victims of sexual violence should take precedence over those of Hamas. The world needs to make a decision about who to trust. Are we to believe the Hamas spokesman who claimed that October 7 couldn't have happened because rape is forbidden? Or should we trust the ladies? The remains of whom reveal the manner in which they passed away. Two anonymous Israeli investigators have warned against using specific victim counts of rape at this time. According to their statements to NBC News, the investigation will most likely continue for months as new evidence is being uncovered. The use of sexual weapons on Monday, around 150 activists, including members of Jewish women's groups, along with speakers who accused the United Nations of inaction regarding the abuse of Israeli women by Hamas, marched in front of the UN headquarters. The deafening silence from international institutions over the reports of sexual violence raised the question of whether Israeli women were protected by international law, according to Kochav El-Kayem Levy, who spoke at the rally and is a researcher at Hebrew University of Jerusalem's Davis Institute for International Relations. The significance of both international law and humanity's shared values is diminished when the organizations tasked with protecting women remain silent, according to Levy. Participating remotely at the United Nations panel, former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton stated, "We must respond to weaponized sexual violence wherever it happens." United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres spoke at the panel, stating that the group must denounce the barbaric acts committed by Hamas against women. Hamas is a terrorist group, and the UN should condemn it for using rape as a tactic in its conflict. She emphasized that the UN should condemn these heinous crimes against humanity and fulfill its mission to defend international law. There are also numerous accounts of sexual violence during the attacks that must be vigorously investigated and prosecuted, stated UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres last week. However, Israeli officials argue that Guterres ought to have made her statement weeks ago and that UN Women, an organization within the United Nations devoted to promoting gender equality and women's empowerment, has fallen short of its objective. The United Nations Women's Organization issued a strong statement last week denouncing the Hamas attack and expressing concern over the alarming number of accounts of sexual violence and gender-based atrocities that occurred during the attacks. That is why we have emphasized the need for thorough investigations and prosecutions of all allegations of gender-based violence, with the victims' rights as the central focus, the organization stated. According to the head of a United Nations commission looking into war crimes in the Israel-Hamas conflict, the investigation will hand over any evidence it finds to the International Criminal Court and will concentrate on sexual violence committed by Hamas in the attacks on October 7. Israel maintains its stance of non-cooperation with the commission, claiming an anti-Israel bias. I don't have any specific comment, other than to say we would urge those reports to be fully and credibly investigated, State Department spokesperson Matt Miller said in response to accusations that the UN has responded slowly to rape reports.